Hi, welcome back to IB English Literature with me. Today we'll be looking at, as a continuation of, our rubrics. So, paper 2, the comparative essay. This is where we'll be transitioning from a guided literary analysis to a comparative essay. Here, it's externally assessed. So it goes to the IB, they will mark it, and it will last an hour and 45 minutes compared to the hour and 15 minutes of paper 1. The weight, however, is still 35%. This section, we will have the opportunity to really showcase our ability to compare and contrast the works that we've looked at. So over the space of the hour and 45 minutes, the overall grade will really come from how you really evidence and showcase all that we've learned over the duration of this course. So we had to show that we can explore the text, we can really evidence the text, and we can really delve into all the literary devices, choices, analysis from the text. Paper 2 is consistent over both standard level and high level, and it is the same for both language and literature. So there's a bit of an overlap here, but the general idea is there will be 4 questions, and from those 4 questions, we are asked to compare and contrast 2 literary works to answer one of those questions. And now here, we cannot use the same literary works that we've used for our internal assessment. It has to be 2 different works, and it has to be of a sufficient length to really show that we know what we're talking about and there's enough to talk about. So over the course of the exam, we obviously do not have access to the works, and so it's crucial that we have a deep understanding of the books beforehand, of the text beforehand, and we're expected to really compare, contrast the 2 works in relation to the question chosen. Now, that is key, whilst making reference to the text and the answer. And reference to the text does not mean that we necessarily have to directly quote from the text. That's not a requirement. But making reference to means that we really need to evidence aspects of the text. So whether it comes from themes, points of view, choices made in the text, those are what we need to be referencing. And we need to show a deep demonstration with the text. So we need to really go into the text. We really need to evidence that we know those devices, that we can show them, evidence them, explain how they were used, why they were used, and so on. For paper 2, it's recommended that we consider 3 texts. Okay, paper 2, we're actually only required to answer 2, or to only use 2. However, only having 2 would potentially limit the questions that we could respond to later. So by having 3, by considering 3, by really preparing with 3 different texts, it gives us a much broader choice later on to decide which text we want to use to answer the questions. We need to make sure that it is well supported. As I said earlier, so really evidencing, showing the evidence that you can include in your text, and obviously not using work that you use for your internal assessment. The performance in paper 2 is assessed according to a different rubric to paper 1. Somewhat unique in that it has 2 grades, Criterion A, Criterion B, a certain number of points, and Criterion C, Criterion D, a certain number of points. Okay, with the total being 30. So our ability to really construct a coherent, insightful comparative analysis with reference to the text really determines our success here. Over the duration of this video, we will be looking into the criteria, looking into what the criteria really wants, what IB want, how we can achieve everything that IB require, and how we can move between stages of the rubric to go from the bottom stages up to the top stages. So, the comparative essay. First section then is Criterion A, which is knowledge, understanding, and interpretation. Here it is 10 marks. Criterion B, the analysis and evaluation, which again is 10 marks. But then we move on to Criterion C, which is focus and organization, which goes down to 5 marks. And Criterion D, language, which goes down to 5 marks. So considering this breakdown, we need to explore really how we're going to achieve those different points in the criteria. Of the 4 criteria, they each contribute to a total of 30 marks. So let's delve into each criterion. Criterion A then is considering the depth of your knowledge and your understanding. It really looks into and evaluates your ability to interpret the themes, the characters, the context of the work, and if you've managed to really showcase your comprehension of the literary material that we've chosen. Criterion B, the analysis and evaluation, again the 10 marks, is where we need to demonstrate our analytical skills by looking into critically evaluating the similarities, the differences between the two works. And it's also here where we'll look at the authorial choices, the narrative techniques, the thematic elements, so that we can provide true insight and interpretations and evaluations of the text. Criterion C is focus and organization, which is similar to paper 1. This is looking into the structure and coherence of our essay. So it's looking into how well we've organized our ideas, how well we maintain focus, how well our essay just progresses with each paragraph, hopefully really contributing to the overall argument. And then lastly, similar to Criterion A, is language. So here again, obviously looking at language, have we demonstrated precision? Have we demonstrated clarity, effectiveness, and really ensured that our analysis is truly conveyed with that clarity, that precision that IB require and ask for? And here it's obviously important that we pay attention to vocabulary choice and sentence structure and register. These are vital sections to really evidence and push it through to the next boundaries. So, as I said, externally marked, we can't repeat, has to be different to Criterion A. Another key point here that I would like to emphasize before we move into the breakdown of the rubric is because of the style of this question, we have 4 different questions ready to go for it that we need to choose from. However, we also have the text that we are prepared to look at, analyze, really evaluate beforehand that we can't take into the exam. So there's a lot of preparation with the text that we can do before we even walk into the classroom. That said, it's vitally important here that we're not trying to improvise some form of essay before we go into the exam. We can craft the points, we can take the choices, the background, and so on. And we can then apply that to a question and manipulate it so that it fits into the question and it makes logical sense and order. If we try and prepare the essay in advance, it will always look a little off when we put it into the questions. So it's vital to consider your points, but not to prepare it in advance. Okay, imagine going into a speech with a list of bullet points that you can talk about, you know you want to mention, rather than going in with your speech prepared, trying to revise your speech. Because let's face it, we all know, if you go in with a speech prepared, we'll forget bits, have bits, and it will spend much of the speech going, I'm not sure. The same will go with it, a written essay. We have it prepared in advance. When we try and regurgitate it later, there'll be bits missing, there'll be points that don't fit. So go with your points, have all that preparation in advance so that we can apply it to the questions later on. Okay, then moving on to the actual rubrics. So Criterion A, knowledge, understanding, and interpretation. In this section, we'll really delve into the assessment criteria of Criterion A and focus on how we can achieve it to the best of our ability and really knock it out of the park. This section really considers how much knowledge and understanding we demonstrate of the works that we've chosen, and then to what extent does the candidate make the use of knowledge and understanding of the works to draw conclusions about the similarities and differences in relation to the question. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, in relation to the question. So if you try and prepare an essay in advance, we won't get the second point here. Then the rubric. So focusing on gauging the depth of our familiarity with those texts, our ability to really interpret them, is essential to really demonstrate the understanding of the work and to draw conclusions from the work. The key points that IB mentioned, I've just read to you. So now let's consider the level descriptors of Criterion A. We'll work our way down from the bottom, from low marks to top marks, and we'll consider how we can get the very best marks possible. You're all capable. So from the basic knowledge of 0, 1, 2, up to more advanced knowledge of 9 and 10, how can we go from there to there? As we consider the analysis, as we consider Criterion A, I will provide strategies for you to help you really show that knowledge, to really engage with that work, and to really show that you can critically evaluate and analyze those texts that you've chosen, as well as how you can show interpretations to evidence your understanding. Criterion A is crucial for success in paper 2 because of the fact that it's 10 points alongside Criterion B. So if we get the 2 high marks here, it does allow us more flexibility later in the exam. Hopefully we would do great throughout, but because of those high points, we need to get those high points to maintain our score throughout. So by mastering this criteria, by getting the higher marks in here, we'll be better equipped to tackle the comparative essay and to really demonstrate our efficiency, our ability to interpret those texts. So moving on to part 1 then. So 1, 2, I will call them levels, but they're grade boundaries. So level 1, 2 is where we perhaps focus on narrating the plot or identifying the characters and settings, but we don't quite fully recognize their significance within our analysis. We perhaps overlook the author's intentions or the underlying themes that really shape the narrative of those texts. Alongside this, we are not picking up the language and literary devices that the author has used, or maybe we pick up a few, but we need to be picking up most of them. And those that we picked up, the analysis may be lacking that oomph, it's lacking that depth, and it's missing those opportunities to really uncover the meaning within the text. Level 1 is a fantastic starting point. It gets us onto that rubric. It's not a 0. So level 1 is a start, and it's where we really begin to show the beginnings, where we familiarize ourselves with the tools and the techniques of literary analysis. We're laying that foundation for deeper exploration or the next levels, so the higher grade marks. So here we'll go through and hopefully I'll provide the guidance and support to help your progress, to really nurture your analytical skills and to progress deeper into those grade boundaries. Next level then, Criterion 2, and 3 or 4 points is obviously better than the 1 or 2 points of level 1. Here we're going into a slightly deeper analysis. If we compare this to a metaphor of walking to the ocean, exploring the ocean, level 1, 2 is perhaps where we're just dipping our toes in the water. Level 3 and 4, we're taking that a little bit further. We're maybe walking up to our knees, we're paddling, and we can see the surface of the water. We can perhaps see a little bit through the water, but that's it so far. So we've transitioned from level 1. We've made that more nuanced exploration of the text, and we're beginning to move beyond those surface level observations. We are really beginning to recognize the importance of delving deeper into the text and exploring those themes, those characters, those contexts with more insight, more depth. So this time we've picked up more of them, we've addressed them, considered them, and this time there's more analysis. So we've gone into the water, allowing for that richer exploration of the literature. We are demonstrating a more substantial understanding of the text and themes and the implications of those texts and themes in this boundary. So this really evidences that we're beginning to connect those dots between different points of the text and recognizing how they contribute to the overall meaning and message of the text. So level 1 was very much more picking out a few of them, but not really analyzing or interpreting them. Level 2, we picked out more of them, and we're actually beginning to analyze them and interpret them within the essay, alongside a recognition of how these contribute to the message, the meaning of the text. The analysis is becoming more sophisticated. It's going beyond those simple summaries. It's beginning to explore the text complexities. So it's showing a more advanced use. Students also here are beginning to engage with the author's intentions, maybe recognizing that the author made decisions for a reason and beginning to analyze what those reasons are, as well as asking deeper questions about why certain events occur or how specific literary devices contribute to the narrative of the text. So here you're beginning to show that your interpretations are thoughtful, they're nuanced, they reflect the appreciation for the intricacies of the text. That said, level 2 is still, it's a stage development. So it's still in the lower boundaries and we want to progress past this. So here we're possibly still struggling to fully grasp those subtleties of language or to make the proper connections between different elements of the text. So with guidance, with practice, we'll progress past this and create a deeper understanding and interpretation of those works and move into the next boundaries of 3 and 4. Level 3 then, we're going much, much deeper. We're going into the realms of literary analysis, and we're transitioning from that preliminary exploration to a much more comprehensive understanding of the text and its complexities, its differences, its similarities. We're taking it much further. Here we are demonstrating a much higher awareness of the text themes, the characters, the context of the text. We're beginning to identify and analyze these elements in greater detail and with more insight than we were before. We're recognizing how their significance in shaping the overall meaning of the text. So to go back to our metaphor again with the ocean, here we're going further into the ocean. So we're diving further in, and we're beginning to consider the depth that may reveal those hidden treasures waiting to be discovered. So in this section, we could potentially be putting our heads under the water a little bit. We're beginning to see what's there. We perhaps can't get there yet, or we can't quite make out what's behind things, but we're recognizing that there are things there that we can see, and we're beginning to move on to the realm of discussing them. Here, we're going beyond the surface level. So we've got our heads under the water. Okay, we're articulating those observations, those insights with clarity and with precision, as well as offering deeper and more thoughtful analysis and interpretations of the text, and really showing that we have an understanding of the text. And this engagement is much more focused, it's much more deliberate than levels 1 and 2, and it reflects a growing mastery of your literary ability, your discussion of the language. Here we're also exploring the text implications in more detail. We're identifying and analyzing what the author wanted to do, how they're getting there, and we're also beginning to consider the broader themes of the text, so more cultural aspects, historical aspects, social context that informed the text. So how these created the text, how they changed the text, how they manipulated it. And these interpretations are becoming much more varied, much deeper, as well as considering the underlying themes and messages of the text. Take that a little bit further. Again, it's still not those top marks that we really want. We want to be getting those 6s and 7s. So we want to be progressing past this to 7 and 8 and 9 and 10. Because of this, level 3 is still a stage development text. So we may still encounter challenges in navigating that literary analysis. We're beginning to recognize the aspects. We show that we can see them. We can perhaps recognize what should be there, what the author has aimed to do, but we are struggling to really grasp those subtleties, to make those different connections between the elements of the text. So let's go to level 4. Here, we're beginning to move into the advanced sections, into the sections that we really want. So, level 4. Here, we are exhibiting a true, sophisticated understanding of the text. We're able to really analyze it with precision, with depth, and to uncover the different layers of meaning, those intentions within the text. So, considering our ocean metaphor again, here we've put on our diving gear. We're diving down into the water. We're beginning to see the seabed. We can really see around. We can see where things are, how we can get there, what we're looking at, and seeing the magical underworld of the ocean. So here we're beginning to see the same with the text. We're really seeing how interconnected all aspects of the text are. We are going beyond that surface level. It's no longer just an analysis, but now it offers real compelling interpretations of your text that really shed light on the text's broader implications. So you're able to explore the text's relevance. You're able to consider the cultural, historical, social context of the text. But this time, instead of just recognizing them, you're really going into them, exploring how they have really influenced the text, which evidences a much deeper understanding of their significance within the text. Your interpretations here they're thoughtful, they're well supported, they reference the text, and they show a deep engagement with the text. So here, you've actually referred back to the book, you've gotten bits from the book into your essay. You're comparing the two, you're contrasting the two, and you're really showing a true understanding of the two. Here, you are also beginning to recognize the author's craft. So you've recognized, you've analyzed those literary devices, the language, the structure of the text, alongside their meanings within the text. And you begin to really articulate those observations with sophistication, with clarity, to really support and show your final observations. Level 4 is the beginning of the top sections, okay, but it's not without its challenges. And to get here, there are obstacles as we strive for that evidence, that excellence in our literary analysis. So there may be times where we still struggle to maintain coherence and focus a little bit, or perhaps our interpretations to really effectively integrate that textual evidence is perhaps a little bit off or is not quite there. And so we still have to push it a little bit further. We master this, however, and we can get to those final sections of 9 and 10. So this is the very peak, the pinnacle, if you wish, of Criterion A. Here, you are really showing perfection. You're considering that evidence, you're considering that understanding, you really considered the themes, characters, context, everything, and offer true, insightful points of view that are illuminating. Here, you've perhaps considered things that hadn't been considered by the authors, hadn't been considered by IB, hadn't been considered by me, and there's no right or wrong, they're your interpretations. However, here you are really beginning to evidence that you've taken that a step further. You've really shown that insightfulness that is at an advanced level. You're also considering the literary analysis here. So you managed to engage with the text in a way that is profound and sophisticated. You have explored the text complexities, and you've uncovered all the different layers of meanings and all the author's intentions, what they wanted to get across, how they achieved it, and what that means for the book, what that means for the author. So you've really considered and put it into your essay with true clarity, with true insight, to reach that literary summit, if you will, of just unparalleled clarity and understanding. Again, considering the broader implications of the cultural, historical, and social aspects, here you've really considered a deep, profound perception of how these aspects influence the text, how they influence the author to write a certain way, or how the text became a certain way because of those background implications. And these interpretations are not only thought-provoking, but they're insightful. They perhaps shed that new light on significance, on relevance, maybe not even considered by other people that have read the book or read the text. At this level also, we are really showing command of the text language, its structure, and its literary devices. So we've analysed, we've interpreted, we've shown just how precise we are able to do that. We've used all the right vocabulary and advanced vocabulary that perhaps wasn't seen before, and it shows a truly exceptional answer. That is Criterion A. So then moving on to Criterion B, the analysis and evaluation section. So here we're delving into the intricacies of literary works again, examining not only what is said, but also how it is said. So this criterion serves as a compass to really guide us through the labyrinth of language. We know by now just how complex it can be. We're considering the techniques of the author, the literature, the style, and whichever other authorial choices that we can think of that are relevant to our analysis. We need to consider here just how we can analyze every aspect of the text. So we need to consider every point made and all the different threads of the text and how they were achieved. We also here need to look at, as mentioned, say, from the IB, to what extent does a candidate analyze and evaluate how the choices of language, technique, and style and or authorial choices shape meaning. So this is the indication from IB, along with how effectively does the candidate use analysis and evaluation skills to compare and contrast both works. So this is also where you will truly show just how well you are comparing and contrasting those two works. Obviously here it needs to go beyond a narrative, it needs to go beyond the discussion of what happened in the text to really consider and compare the two. Examining how these choices differ, how there's comparison between the two, will really shape our interpretation of the two texts later on. Here, hopefully we will really hone your analytical prowess. We'll learn to discern the nuances that distinguish different types of literature and the skills to evaluate when we're considering the effectiveness of these choices with not just the individual impacts, but also the collective contribution to the text as a whole. So this is the rubric. And as we navigate into level 1 of Criterion B, again, we find ourselves at the starting point of the rubric. We have passed to 0, so we're achieving some points. That said, we're maybe struggling to move beyond just that mere description. We are offering a bit of a superficial analysis, but it lacks that depth and that critical insight. So our ocean metaphor here, we're just skimming the surface of the ocean, this vast space, without truly understanding the depths of what's there. We're perhaps not recognizing what's under the water. We're just skimming the top. We can see what's on the top. We're not considering anything else. At this level, we may exhibit descriptive tendencies. So we're beginning to narrate the events of the text without really considering the significance of them within the text. And the analysis could be characterized by a reliance on summary, providing a surface level observation that are not exploring the underlying meanings or implications of the text. And we're overlooking those language techniques and those styles employed by the author, which means we're missing those opportunities for a much deeper analysis, perhaps struggling to really identify and analyze these elements. And this, unfortunately, keeps our grade lower. Level 1 represents very much a foundational stage in the journey, where we're just beginning to familiarize ourselves with the tools and techniques of literary analysis. It's a starting point with the idea that we progress from here. The idea of talking about these rubrics now, about these criteria now, is so that as we progress through the course, we can refer back to these criteria and you can really recognize how they can be applied to the analysis that we do. Moving into section 2 then, for 3 and 4 points. Here we are beginning to witness the evolution of your analytical ability. We're going beyond just that very, very superficial surface level, and we're delving deeper into the text. Here you should be demonstrating a more budding awareness of the complexities that are always evident in literary works. However, there may still be some issues in just articulating that, getting that there. You're beginning to recognize that there are some, but perhaps you're not quite there in progressing past that. At this stage, you are beginning to move on past that mere description to an analysis, albeit there's still some reliance on summarization. But it shows more of a willingness to engage with the text, language, techniques, and styles. But these analyses are somewhat superficial. They're perhaps lacking that depth, that critical reflection that IB require. But level 2 does show that you are attempting to explore those implications of the text. And although your analysis may not yet fully capture those subtleties, those nuances of the text, those different elements included, there may be some struggles to identify, to articulate the significance of certain literary devices or authorial choices, which tend to lead to an analysis that is somewhat tentative, it's somewhat underdeveloped. But Criterion 2 is a crucial stage in the journey where we're really transitioning from those surface level observations to a more meaningful analysis. This section is essentially a stage of exploration and experimentation, is that each insight is contributing to those gradual refinement of your analytical skills. And with practice, with guidance that will go through the rest of the course, we will progress past this to those further levels and we'll get past into Criterion 3. Level 3 is where we are just beginning to witness the maturation of those analytical abilities. There's a deeper engagement with the text, with the complexities of the text. And here we're demonstrating a more robust understanding of the language, technique, style that the analysis is going into. You are being increasingly insightful, increasingly perceptive. And at this stage, we're going beyond those just descriptions. We're going into a substantive analysis. We're exploring all those implications of the text choices with depth, with clarity, to really exhibit, to show our ability to identify and analyze all those nuances of language all the techniques, all those styles used by the author, and truly recognizing their significance in shaping the text's meaning and impact. At this level also, we are showing a much greater capacity for critical reflection. We can consider how these choices are contributing to the overall effectiveness of the text, and it is offering insights into the author's intentions, the broader implications of the choices made by the author, and how they're used to enrich the analysis. Like, the author has used them for what purpose, how, why, which shows a much deeper level of interpretation. That said, level 3 can still encounter some challenges in articulating these insights. So the analyses are perhaps not quite hitting that sophistication that IB require, and this is what sets it apart from the higher boundaries of 7, 8, 9, and 10. But it is more sophisticated than the first two boundaries. It does demonstrate your willingness to really engage with the text, to consider those complexities, to explore those nuances, those insights, and go beyond it. So it is quite a significant milestone in the rubric, in the analytical journey, as it's here where you begin to approach the text with a more discerning eye, with a deeper appreciation for the text, for the complexities, for the choices. So it's a stage of growth, as each section of the analysis is really evidencing that you're beginning to recognize pieces, you're trying to analyze pieces, you're just perhaps not doing it in a way that is quite capable of reaching those next two levels. Level 4 of Criterion B is where we're hitting that point of a commendable level of proficiency. It's the higher end of the boundaries. It's not the top level, so it's not perfect, but it's nearly there. So to plan with more understanding, with more practice, with more guidance, we will get you from here into the last section. This section shows that we have given a thorough analysis of the text language, the technique and style, and we've given analyses that are insightful and incisive. We are really managing to show our mastery of literary analysis here. We've gone beyond the surface level observations to go deep into the text complexities with precision and with depth. We are showing a keen awareness of the nuances of language here, and we're considering the style employed by the author, the technique of the author. We're recognizing the impact that these have on the text meaning, the text resonance, how that speaks to us as an audience because of the choices that the author has made. Level 4 also showcases a high level of critical thinking. It evaluates how these choices contribute to the text's overall effectiveness and significance. So this section is offering true, compelling insights into the author's intentions and the broader implications of the text choices, the author's choices, and using this to really enrich your analysis with a level of depth and sophistication that is impressive. What we may encounter here, though, is there may still be some challenges in articulating those insights. So perhaps our analysis is evident or analyzed by a level of clarity that set them apart from the earlier boundaries. They do demonstrate a mastery of analytical techniques. You have picked those out and you've showed the capacity for nuanced interpretation because you've drawn them out, because you've analyzed them. However, there's still room to get past this, take it a little bit deeper to get into section 9. Level 4 also represents a significant achievement in the analysis, as it really shows that you have a level of proficiency that is indicative of growth and development. It's a true stage of refinement, of consolidation, where your analysis really goes beyond the superficial, goes beyond the descriptions, and it is really showing a true analysis and shows the expansion of your analytical horizons, your ability to really engage with those texts well. And then lastly, into the last criterion. So level 5 is the top. Again, there's nothing further, and with it being 10 points to get to this section is a true achievement. Here is really exemplifying those highest standards of analysis. It is truly demonstrating an exceptional understanding of all aspects of the text, so the language, the technique, the style, and it really offers an analysis that is deep, profound, perceptive, and well written. As we hit this level, we are showing a level of sophistication, a level of depth that is exceptional. It possesses a nuanced understanding of the language, technique, and style used by the author, and really goes in and recognizes the profound impact that this has on the text meaning and resonance, whilst also showcasing the ability to really critically evaluate how these choices contribute to the text effectiveness and its significance. It gives penetrating insights. By this, I mean it really captures those reading it and maybe hitting points that we had not considered, taking it to that next level. And the understanding of the text is impressive. So while hitting this level, we may still encounter challenges articulating these insights. The IB does work on a top-down grading process, so we can still hit this top criterion, this top points, without it being perfect. Like, mistakes can be made, provided they are not repeated over and over throughout. So here, we're really showing that mastery of those analytical techniques, the interpretations, and showing a real unparalleled engagement with the text to represent the pinnacle of the analysis, where you're really demonstrating an exceptional level of proficiency, insight, mastery, excellence, whatever you want to call it. And the idea here is, after studying IB for the past 2 years, or still being in the IB process, hitting here would be a culmination of lots of study, lots of practice, lots of dedication to the craft of literary analysis. And hitting this point really shows that we've achieved those points. We've processed everything that we wanted to process. We've hit those top marks. Moving into Criterion C then is where we move to the 5 points. Criterion C is focus and organization. So it's considering the structural integrity of literary analysis. It is examining how well those ideas are presented. Are they balanced? Are they focused throughout the essay? Criterion C is essentially the blueprint that guides us through the process of organizing those thoughts and ensuring that all the argument is coherently connected and perfectly directed. The point from IB are how well structured, balanced, and focused is the presentation of ideas, and that's the rubric. So here, you are really required to hone your ability to construct those balanced arguments where each idea is given appropriate weight, it is balanced, and appropriate consideration. You develop those skills to really connect thoughts cohesively, and you manage to make sure that the essay remains focused, remains on task, showing that there's planning, there's organization, where showing that each paragraph has a purpose and contributes to the overall argument. Considering this section, considering Criterion T, we will again start the foundational level, where we may be initially struggling to maintain that focus and organization. So level 1, 2 is the foundational stage. At this level, we are maybe struggling to maintain that focus, and our essays may be a little fragmented, a little disjointed. Essentially like a puzzle, we're trying to put the puzzle together, but we don't really have a clear picture of what the puzzle should look like upon the end. At this initial stage, we may rarely focus on the task, leading to an essay that lacks cohesive argument. Our ideas may be a little scattered, with few of them really making connection between them, which makes the essay difficult to follow. This lack of focus results in a bit of an imbalance in the treatment of the works, where one text might be discussed in more detail than another, or where there may be just irrelevant information that detracts from that main argument. It distracts the audience of readers. In this section also, the development ideas may be sporadic, maybe disorganized. So without presenting points, without a logical progression, leading to a failure to build a coherent narrative, leading to an essay that feels more like a series of unrelated observations rather than a very structured analysis. But it is a starting point. Again, you are on the rubric. It is not a zero. So it is a stage where we're beginning to familiarize ourselves with that importance of maintaining clear, sustained focus on the task. And it's also where we're beginning to learn the basics of structuring those thoughts in a logical and convincing manner. Moving on to level 2. So improving slightly. This does show an improvement in the focus and organization of the essay, though there are still notable challenges. So at this level, we're beginning to show ability to concentrate on the task, although our efforts may still waver a little. Akin to a budding artist beginning to see the outline of their subject, but struggling to fill in the details consistently. We're not quite getting the shading right. It looks a bit drawn. Here, level 2 progresses from level 1 in that the essay sometimes focuses on the task. Although the focus can be inconsistent, the connections do begin to appear. And they're not always coherent, which does lead to occasional lapses in the flow of the argument. But it does show that you're beginning to balance the treatment of the works, although the balance still has work to work on. And it's not yet been fully achieved, and certain sections may feel disproportionately weighted or underdeveloped. But again, it's working on the right section. The development of ideas at this level shows promise, although there may be some gaps. Here, you are presenting points in a somewhat logical manner. However, transition between those ideas can sometimes be a little abrupt or a little unclear, causing the reader to lose track of that progression. And the essay may contain flashes of insightful analysis, but they are often undermined by the lack of cohesive structure. Level 2, though, is a crucial stage in that it is beginning to show a mastery of focus and organization. It is getting you there, you're progressing, you're moving. And it is where you're beginning to connect those ideas more effectively. You're laying that groundwork for a more coherent and balanced presentation of an analysis. This stage really emphasizes the importance of refining organizational skills and shows how, by maintaining a sustained focus on the task, you can create a more compelling and logically structured essay, which would help you get into the next boundaries, such as 3. This is quite a significant milestone. This sets you in the middle of the criterion, and this level really shows that you are beginning to show a more consistent ability to focus on the task. And your essay by this point are showing a much clearer structure and balance. They're moving beyond that rough sketch to a more detailed, more proportionate drawing, where maybe the overall composition starts to come together more effectively. At level 3 also, the essay is beginning to focus on the task. And despite some lapses, you are showing a much more increased ability to stick to the central argument, although occasional deviations may still occur. And at this point, the treatment of the works, so the 2 works, are mostly balanced. You are by now also showing a greater awareness of how to allocate attention and detail to the works in a way that is supporting your comparative analysis. You're making it work in your favor. At this section, ideas are logical, they're coherent, and you are beginning to connect those thoughts in a cohesive manner, moving from clear progression to progression from one point to the next, allowing for an essay structure that is taking shape. It is really has discernible transition between paragraphs and makes the essay easier to follow and makes it more persuasive. Level 3 is a maturing stage in the analysis, in that it shows that you're beginning to master that focus, that organization. You're recognizing the important points and the unimportant points. And it is where you're building a present, balanced argument, and you're maintaining a much clearer focus on the task at hand, the essay, and you're showing the importance of a logical development, a logical coherence, and you're recognizing how important that solid foundation is for further improvement. By moving on with these skills, we can progress towards crafting an even better organized, even more compelling essay to really communicate these insights, which takes us into level 4. Level 4 really shows a strong grasp in focus and organization in literary analysis. And at this level, we're demonstrating a clear, sustained focus on the task. The essay reflects well-structured and balanced arguments. So thinking of our essay, our artist metaphor, level 4 is essentially the same as the artist adding those finishing touches to a detailed painting. They recognize where each element should be put, and they recognize how the thoughtful placement creates that harmonious whole. Level 4 also shows a mostly clear and sustained focus on the task at hand. You have a robust understanding of the central argument with few lapses in focus, not many, and the treatment of the work is balanced. This shows an even distribution between attention and analytical depth across the two texts that you've chosen. And this balance allows for a nuanced comparison between the distinct and shared aspects of the works chosen. So it really evidences the comparing, contrasting that the prompts that IB require. The development ideas of this section is logical, it is cohesive, and it shows that you are connecting your thoughts smoothly to provide a seamless progression from one idea to the next. And the essay is well defined, it is clear, it is effective, and transition between points in your essay really guide the reader through your argument. So it's not disjointed, there's a nice flow from points right the way through. Each paragraph here really builds on your previous paragraphs, allowing for coherent, persuasive analysis that shows all those logical points, thoughts, in a manner that is easy to follow. Level 4, being the mature step, shows mastery of focus and organization. It is really where you're demonstrating a high skill in balanced and focused arguments, and whilst also emphasizing the importance of maintaining that clear, sustained focus on the task and ensuring that each part of the essay contributes to the overall argument. Again, by practicing, by honing these skills a little bit further, we can really progress that into level 5, the last section of Criterion C. As with the previous 2 points, level 5 is full marks in this section, and at this highest level really shows that you've managed to consistently demonstrate clear, sustained focus on the task, and that you presented true, well-balanced, meticulously structured essay. Back to our artist metaphor, level 5 is where you created that masterpiece. Is every stroke is intentional, all the shading matches, flows from corner to corner, all the elements are taken into account to create that cohesive, compelling final piece. Level 5 shows an essay that maintains a clear, sustained focus on the task throughout the whole essay, and shows that you have exhibited an exceptional understanding of the central arguments, and there's no lapses in focus. The treatment of both works here is well balanced, with both texts receiving equal and thorough analysis, allowing for a very sophisticated comparison that really highlights the interplay between your two works and the relevance in relation to your chosen question. The development ideas in level 5 is very logical, very convincing. It shows that you've managed to connect your thoughts in a conjugate manner through a seamless, compelling progression of ideas from one point to the next, with a structure that is highly effective, with clear, purposeful, intentional transitions that really enhance the reader's understanding of the argument that you're making. Here, each paragraph builds intricately onto the next one, and it creates a coherent, persuasive analysis. At this point, both your whole essay as a whole should be flowing nicely from one point to the next, but even within paragraphs should be flowing topic sentence, body, concluding sentence within your paragraphs. Level 5 is the pinnacle of focus and organization. It is where you've truly showcased your ability to present wholly balanced, focused, and logically developed arguments with precision. It shows that you really have recognized the importance of maintaining a clear, sustained focus on the task, and that you've managed it. It ensures that each element of your essay is compelling, it has points, it flows. So with all these combined, allows for 4 points, 5 marks in Criterion C, focus and organization. So then lastly, moving into Criterion D. In Criterion D, we delve into the heart of effective communication within the literary analysis. Here, we focus on the clarity, the variety and accuracy of the language, as well as the appropriateness of the register and style that you've chosen. This criterion serves as the guide to ensure that the essays are not only insightful, but they're also articulate and well expressed. So the points that IB give as tips: how clear, varied and accurate is the language, how appropriate is the choice of register and style, with register here meaning the candidate's use of elements such as vocabulary, tone, sentence structure, and terminology appropriate to the essay, and that's the rubric. Language is the medium through which we convey all of our thoughts, all of our arguments, all of our interpretations. So it obviously plays a vital part in our literary analysis. So it's crucial that our language is clear, it's precise, and it allows readers, me, IB, teachers, to easily grasp the nuances of your arguments, and that you have managed to use varied yet accurate vocabulary, grammar, and sentences. Here, the register is also important, and style is also important. So it's an academic piece of writing, it's an academic essay. Thus, the register itself should be kept in such a manner, but it should be a well-chosen register. The style should be professional, it should be scholarly, and it should demonstrate an ability to really engage with the text in a manner that befits academic discourse. As we progress through Criterion D, the idea is to really refine our language skills and ensure that our essay is not only analytically sound, but it's also eloquent. So by honing these skills, by really practicing them, getting everything together, we'll hopefully be able to effectively communicate our literary ideas, our thoughts, into a compelling, accessible piece of writing. As we move into level 1 at Criterion D then, is the initial stages. So the initial stages of mastering academic language. But because it's level 1, it shows a bit of difficulty. It shows that we're perhaps struggling to use language effectively, and leading to essays where the language is maybe rarely clear or not appropriate, akin to us driving down a road on a foggy day and we can't see through the fog. We're trying to push things out, we can't see it, we can't get past that idea. So at this level, the essays frequently marked by numerous errors in grammar, vocabulary, and sentence construction, which can significantly hinder the clarity of the argument. It makes it difficult for us to follow the line of reasoning of the essay. So akin to building a solid structure, but the materials are weak, the foundations are unreliable, the foundations are unstable, the construction suffers as a result. At this point, there is little recognition, little sense of register and style, while vocabulary, tone, sentence structure may not be appropriate for an academic essay, which further detracts from the effectiveness of the writing. Also, the formality and precision expected of the analysis perhaps appears too casual or too inconsistent, affecting the overall essay as a whole. That said, level 1 again is on the rubric, it's not a 0. It does show a beginning of an understanding. It shows that you are on the journey towards this linguistic proficiency, while recognizing the need for significant improvement in a number of sections. But that's what I'm here for. That's what teachers are there for. At this stage, we can begin to identify these weaknesses and work towards developing a much more effective communication to really put you into those later boundaries. and moving on to level 2. Here we're beginning to see some improvements in the clarity and the appropriateness of the language. And at this stage, maybe we're beginning to demonstrate a better grasp of the language. But there are still some errors, some inconsistencies. Again, with our fog example, imagine emerging from a dense fog. We managed to clear through the fog into a clearer, although somewhat still hazy landscape. So we've made progress, we're passed through that fog, but things are still a bit unclear and we still don't have a true direction as to where we're going. At this point, language is sometimes clear and carefully chosen. So we are making an effort to select the appropriate vocabulary to construct those sentences, but the work is perhaps still marred by fairly frequent errors in grammar, vocabulary, and sentences. And these errors, while less pervasive than those at level 1, still disrupt the flow of the coherence of the essay. And they still make it more challenging to maintain that smooth and effective argument. Here, the sense of register and style begins to improve, but it's still a little inconsistent. So while you are occasionally choosing that right tone, there are still moments where the choices fall short. Perhaps there's slips in remembering, and the register and style are somewhat appropriate, but there are lapses. Level 2 is a transitional stage, so it's not foundational like the first one, it's transitional in that we're moving beyond the most basic areas and we're making strides, we're progressing towards more effective communication. But there are still problems, so with continued practice, with attention to detail, to more guidance from us, we can get past this foundational level to move into Criterion 3 or above. Criterion 3 is evidence of a much more consistent command of the language. It makes the essays clearer, makes them more focused, and shows quite a significant step forward, akin to seeing the fog lift completely now. From our fog example we've gone through, the fog is gone, and it really reveals the contours of the landscape. We can see much clearer what's happening, what's going on in much more detail. The language here is generally clear then, and much more carefully chosen, and there's an adequate degree of accuracy. Although some lapses still occur, there are still some mistakes. At level 3 shows an ability to construct grammatically correct sentences and select appropriate vocabulary. There may still be some errors in grammar, some errors in vocabulary, some errors in sentence construction, but it shows that you've put past this to really try and use some in a more advanced manner. And mistakes, these lapses, are much less frequent and less disruptive than at the lower levels. This clarity allows for a much more improved essay and allows the reader to follow the argument much more easily. This section also shows that you have considered that register and style and that it is mostly appropriate to the task at hand, and shows that you have a growing awareness of the formal tone and specific terminology required for academic writing, and your essay is cohesive. There's a clear alignment between the language that you're using and the analytical purpose of the essay, with a few errors. Level 3 is a solid midpoint. It shows that you're really working your way through the analysis, you're really getting there, progressing, you're really developing the ability to communicate your ideas in an effective manner, and you're really setting the stage for a sophisticated, strong analysis with a good argument. This level also shows that with practice, with attention to detail, you can go to higher levels if this is where you're trying to get to, as we see in level 4. Shows a strong command of the language. At this point, your essay is really evidence clear, complex, carefully chosen language with a good degree of accuracy. Imagine now with our foggy metaphor. Now it's a clear day, every detail of the landscape is visible and offers a coherent, comprehensive view. So you see everything, you can analyze everything, and it's all correct. This reflects a significant achievement in both the linguistic clarity and the depth of your answer, and shows that you are generally using clear and effective language. At this point, it also shows that you're evidencing a good degree of accuracy in grammar, vocabulary, sentence construction again, resulting in a smooth and readable prose. Errors are infrequent, they're minor, and they really show that you have a solid grasp of the language mechanics necessary for good, effective communication. The register and style here are also consistently appropriate to the task. You have used a formal tone, precise terminology suitable for academic writing, and the words you've chosen, the sentences you've considered, align well with the expectations of a literary analysis essay. This consistency really allows the reader to focus on the argument you're sharing, that you're progressing, without being distracted by any language problems or language issues. And where level 3 was transitional, level 4 is a mature stage in the development of your language skills, and really shows that you can present your ideas logically and convincingly with those clear, cohesive connections between points, and that you're capable of maintaining that formal, appropriate register throughout your essay, whilst demonstrating an ability to really engage with your text at a high level. With a little more practice, with a little more studying, we'll get you into level 5, which is an outstanding level of clarity. This stage is, again, the highest level of linguistic proficiency, where your language becomes a powerful tool for sophisticated literary analysis. At this level, the language in your essay is exceptionally clear, exceptionally precise, and you have evidenced a very high degree of accuracy in grammar and vocabulary and sentence construction, while your prose is polished, it's refined, and it's free from significant errors. This is key here in that many students consider that to get these top marks, their answer has to be 100% perfect. It's not the case. Whatever point we make errors, so language 5 is errors can be made, but they're not significant, they're not repetitive, they're very minor errors. The register and style here are also appropriate. The formal tone has been used, precise terminology has been used for a scholarly quality of writing, and the words you've chosen, the sentence structures you've used, the style you've used, not only meet but exceed the expectations of academic writing. Level 5 shows a true integration of complex ideas and strong, persuasive, nuanced arguments, which seamlessly, with each point articulated in a clear, logical, and persuasive manner, to really pour into an exceptional essay. Here, the writing flows smoothly with cohesive connection between ideas that guide the reader effortlessly through an essay and show an ability to really maintain a consistent, sophisticated register throughout the entire essay. Level 5 is the pinnacle. It's the top of linguistic achievement, top of the language section, where you really express your insights with exceptional clarity and effectiveness. And this section of your writing shows it's engaging, it's compelling, and it is a testament to your analytical and your linguistical skills, and really exemplifies the highest standards of Criterion D. So that's part A, B, C, D of paper 2. And here we can see the full overview of the rubric, showing all 4 sections, showing the number of points. Through this section, we can see how each criterion has level descriptors that really delineate specific levels of achievement, providing a framework for evaluating your work later. By adhering to these criteria, you can demonstrate your ability to construct a more coherent, insightful comparative analysis overall. And we will refer to this, we will use this rubric overview throughout the course as we're considering texts we can use side by side to really consider how they can be used. It's important to recognize in this section, as we have the overview, that IB mark on a top-down process. So rather than looking for weaknesses and then grading you on the weaknesses that have happened, they instead grade top-down. So they're looking for the things that you have achieved. And that is the key with the points the criteria mentioned in this rubric. The IB will be looking at the top marks first, considering whether you achieve those top marks before addressing and moving down if they're not achieved. This allows for a much fairer, a much more just approach to marking, because they're not considering all the tiny little details, the tiny little errors that you've made. They're instead looking at the quality of your writing and looking at what you did well, looking at what you did correctly. And based on those things you did, are you achieving this boundary? Which will allow you to really know how you're hitting each rubric. It also means that in terms of this course, it is also much easier for us to address your questions and consider, because in this manner we can make sure that you're inserting the requirements from IB. Are you doing this? Are we doing this? Are we achieving that? Which really allows us to progress past from these bottom points up to these top points quite easily and swiftly. Perfect. That is the end of the paper 2 rubric then. For the next video, we'll be looking into the internal assessment, and we'll be going through the internal assessment rubric. This will be the final rubric before we consider the next part of the course, which will be developed in the next video. Thank you very much. Bye bye.